Hi then, hello and welcome back once again to the channel. I'm here with another shoe review. It's a little something different this time. It's a blue Hoka One One box. The one's in the box. And here we have the Hoka One One Clifton 8. Let's get into it. So then, the Hoka One One Clifton 8, let's just refer to it as the Hoka Clifton 8. Now the shoe is pitched at a shoe for clocking up lots and lots of easy miles. It's lightweight, it's cushioned, it's comfortable, it's structured, that kind of thing. For me, recently I've been using the Nike Invincible for just clocking up all of those miles, and so I'm interested to see how that compares against the Invincible. Now, as always, what I'm not going to do is to go into loads of technical specifications and that kind of thing. The stack height, the drop, and all of that. I'm really interested in three things. How do the shoes look? How do the shoes feel on foot? And how do they perform during the run? Those are the three things that are most important to me with a running shoe. There are loads and loads of other YouTube reviews out there that go into technical specifications and that kind of thing. So first and foremost, how do they look? Well, the first thing that I noticed is how big they look. Now, I'm not sure how they compare in terms of size of the Invincible. So here is one I compared earlier. And arguably, they're potentially even bigger, and I thought this was a monster of a shoe when I first got it. So the midsole on the Invincible is so kind of dominating, but actually when you combine the shoes side by side, there's probably more Hoka than there is Invincible, and especially if you compare that, the outsole there, just the area covered by the outsole on the Hoka, because the Invincible kind of comes in here and then expands back out, you've just got a much wider, more giant platform. Now, the platform looks large anyway, given that I'm a UK 13 size, so they are big, big shoes. But yeah, that just looks absolutely huge. So I wonder how that feels on the feet, whether it feels kind of overwhelming, over-dominating, that sort of thing. The stack around here, that size of that midsole, it looks quite dominating as well. The colours I'm quite a fan of. I quite like how the white midsole here combines with a little bit of a red layer and then this sort of bluey, greeny, tealy sort of colour of the upper. I think that looks quite cool. You've got Hoka branding around the back, you've got the Time to Fly symbol on the side here as well. But apart from that, there's a few minor bits of detailing, some reflective strips along the front here and some branding on the tongue. Now the upper itself, it's a mesh upper. It looks to be fairly flexible. It looks to be fairly lightweight. It looks as if it's going to be quite comfortable. There is lots of sort of plush cushioning around the ankle here. In the tongue feels really cushioned. Around the heel, into the ankle, around the Achilles, you've got this extended sort of pull tab. It's not your usual loop. It's just a larger piece, extension of the heel of the shoe as a pull tab there. That feels nice and cushioned. There feels to be structure around the heel, and then sort of loosens up into a bit more of a flexible upper, and then some reinforcement around the toe box just to protect the toes and that front material. When it comes to the laces themselves are slightly ribbed, so hopefully that means they're not going to come undone. But the eyelets, you've got fairly traditional, a few eyelets up there, double eyelet at the top. Now, as always, if you've ever watched any of my reviews, double eyelet at the top means the runner's knot. That is the best, most secure way of getting a nice locked-in fit in your running shoes. If you haven't applied the runner's knot yet, then I'll put a little instructional video up on the screen here. It will change your life. It's by far the best way, in my opinion, to get a nice, secure, locked-in feeling so that your ankles and heel isn't sort of bouncing up and down during the run. It prevents from having to over-tighten the shoes, causing pain across the top of the foot and that sort of stuff. In terms of the midsole, it doesn't feel super soft just by squishing it. So let's wait until that's on foot. The outsole, the Hoka midsole here, you've got a few strips of rubber in the high wear areas kind of dotted about. It looks to have quite a lot of traction, but there is a lot of foam there. I'm hoping that means it's going to be well comfortable. Now, I have had one pair of Hoka in the past. I had the Carbon X, which was their carbon plated racing shoe, which I picked up, I think it was in 2019, but I had a bit of a problem in it. Given that it was a race shoe, I just couldn't seem to get any pace out of it, and frustratingly, across the middle of the foot here, right across where the ball of the foot would be, there just felt to be some sort of invisible line, kind of as if there was a join in my sock or a seam in my sock. Regardless of what socks I was putting on, regardless of what I did, it just always seemed to be there, and it was quite uncomfortable. And so I think these have only got maybe 100 or 200 kilometers in them before they then sort of got put away. So that sort of put me off a little bit. But yes, so let's see how these compare. Now, this is the 8th iteration of the Clifton series, which would imply that it's quite a popular shoe. And the main update since the Clifton 7 has been this new ultralight midsole. So without further ado, let's see how that feels underfoot. So here we go then. Just using that pull tab at the back there, slip that on without much of a problem. I've already stuck the runner's knot on the shoe, so I just cinch my feet down. I'm ready to go. Okay, and even with the runner's knot in, there is loads of lace left over. In some shoes, you find that if you apply the runner's knot, because it uses just that little bit extra amount of lace, that you run out of lace at the end to tie a knot. But yeah, no issues with that in these shoes. And first thing that I'm feeling is that, yes, there is a lot of shoe there. They feel quite big, quite chunky, reminiscent of putting the Invincible on for the first time as well. I don't think it feels as bouncy or as sort of tall around the heel of the foot. I don't feel like I'm standing quite as tall, but it does feel like quite a big shoe. Now, I've gone for a UK 13.5 in this shoe, and the reason for that is because that's what I went with the Carbon X. So apparently Hoka was slightly small fitting, so I thought rather than a 12.5 and risk it being too small, I'd go for a 13.5. I've got arguably a little bit too much room around the front of the shoe. They didn't do a UK 13, so it was either the 12.5 or the 13.5 that I had to choose from. So yes, I've arguably got a little bit too much room, a little bit more than a thumbnail's width around the front there, but rather have a little extra space and too little space and end up with my toenails falling off. The flexible upper, I seem to have plenty of space. It's quite a wide shoe, and I've got quite wide feet anyway. There seems to be plenty of space around the sides of my feet, plenty of flexibility in that material, so I'm not concerned about feeling restricted in there. It's just that space at the front is perhaps a little too much. Now, they don't feel as cushioned as I thought they were going to underfoot. Let's see how it is when I run, but it's not immediately plush and cushioned like the Zoom X foam of the Invincible, where it feels as though you're standing on some inflatable cushions. I've got a little bit of like a restrictive sensation around the arch as well. It feels like it's just protruding a little bit into my foot. Other than that though, not a great deal to report just by standing here. The shoes feel pretty light, albeit they feel quite large. So the next thing to do is to take them outside and see how they feel on the roads. Let's get into it.
Okay, then, so here we are. It is just starting to rain. Now, before I set off, just in my drills, in my warm-up, that kind of restrictiveness around the arch, I'm just going to point it out. So around here, there just feels to be something protruding, more so in the right foot than the left, around the archway, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable just walking. So let's just see how that is for the run. But let's get going. I'll just kick that off and we're off. Right, so I'm now 2 kilometers in and just headed out into the beautiful countryside out here. I found a new route recently, which means I don't always have to be dodging traffic up and down busy streets. It's basically a nice long straight and pretty flat farm track, bridle path, whatever you want to call it. And this is where I've been doing some of my speed work over the last couple of weeks as part of my half marathon training program. Come along here, don't have to contend with cars or anything, or many people. I just get to blast it up and down these lanes and tracks and just put in the work. Anyway, right, digress. So I've settled into the run. That archway issue doesn't seem to be causing any issues now. And I suppose first thing to say is that it's just a pretty comfortable ride. There's nothing immediately outstanding. The shoe isn't a fast shoe. It's not like I'm getting a kick from a plate or anything like that. It's not as hugely cushioned a feel as the likes of the Invincible. It's quite firm, but having said that, it's quite comfortable. I'm just ticking along at 5 minutes a kilometre, so a fairly easy pace, easy run today in between harder efforts as part of my programme. And this is the sort of pace that I'd expect to be running in this shoe as part of my easy day rotation, just clocking up those longer distance miles, zone 2, easy running, recovery miles, and that sort of thing. And yeah, I can see why people choose the shoe. It is comfortable. It does feel good at this pace. It's wet out here today. It's actually raining a little bit. I'm on sort of gravelly, dusty, gravelly, stony track here. I've had no issues with traction. I did take on quite a tight wet bend a little further back on tarmac. No problems with traction whatsoever. That outsole providing a great amount of stability and security. Oop, just head over a slippy wooden bridge, try and give it a bit of a... But yeah, no issues there either. As an aside, just look how long and straight this path is. It's no vehicles, and it's about 3 kilometers in length from that little bridge just there all the way out of sight in that direction. So yeah, it's a great road, albeit the surface itself is really uneasy. There's lots of potholes further up, lots of roots kind of breaking through the tarmac, which does pose some issues when it comes to breaking ankles and things. But elevation wise, it's a lovely fast route. Anyway, digressing. So I'm just at the uneven part of the track now. You can see I'm jumping over various bits of broken tarmac, and that wide platform to the bottom of the shoe is providing lots of stability. I'm not really worried about rolling an ankle. There's plenty of surface area, just giving me a lot of security and confidence in my footing. The shoes do feel nice and light actually, given that they're quite large in terms of their size, arguably bigger than the Nike Invincible, but they don't feel as heavy as the Invincible. So I would usually have my headphones in when I'm running, but I don't today. And one thing that I'm tuning into is the sound of the impact, the sound of kind of transitioning, the sound of toe off. And the thing about that outsole that I mentioned before, it has a lot of tread, a lot of grip. And actually what I'm finding on this smoother surface is I can almost feel and hear the sound of the tread peeling up away from the tarmac. Now, I'll take you in, see if you can hear it. You may not be able to over the sound of tweeting birds and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, let's give it a go, see if you can hear it. Okay, so I'm not sure how audible that was, but yeah, it's just got this kind of the sound of rubber peeling away from the surface with every step, which is quite a cool noise. So just coming in for the halfway mark now, edging towards 5 kilometers, 30 meters to go, and we'll turn around and head back, and that is 5 kilometers. Oop. And I've just come out from that side lane onto this beautifully new tarmacked country lane, and it is absolutely glorious to run on this. It's ever so slightly bouncy, brand new surface, like no risk of potholes or anything like that. It's absolutely glorious for running on. Almost worth doing a 1k time trial just on this section of road. Wouldn't have to worry about your footing. Might have to worry about the odd car every now and again though, as illustrated. Okay, so we'll head back along the farm track and back towards the finish. And would you believe it, the non-vehicle track that I've just been bigging up had a vehicle on it. First time I've seen that. Wouldn't fancy driving along here, to be honest. Never mind. So what I wasn't planning on doing today was doing a fast interval. It's not really the type of shoe for that. I'm never going to be pushing the pace in these, whether that be a race, a fast day, a time trial, any speed work, any intervals, that kind of thing. So I don't really want to push them up towards that sort of race pace. It's just not really where they fit. What I will do though, just for a little, is pick up from 5 minutes a kilometre towards a slightly more moderate pace, and just to see how they do around 4:30. There we are. I just prefer the feel at the slower paces. I think the shoe's just kind of a little too big. It's not feeling all that comfortable pushing the pace. It's a bit too bulky, slightly too wide, not streamlined enough. So I'm just going to slow it back down. I picked up to 4 minutes and 15, 4 minutes and 13. Yeah, not really made for that. So there's no use really testing it at that, particularly since I'm in between harder effort days as part of my half marathon training. So I don't want to push too hard today. It's just about bagging those nice, easy, relaxed miles. I've got 3 kilometers left of the run remaining. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the camera away, just focus in on the shoes, how they feel, enjoy the rest of the run, and we'll pick it up for a summary at the finish. Here we are then, closing in on the finish line, and that is that then. 10.10 kilometers this morning, 10.10 in the Hoka One One Clifton 8. Right, so it was a nice easy run today, just taking it nice and slow, nice and steady in between harder sessions. Let's cover off the pros of the shoe first. Nice, wide, stable platform underfoot. It's a little bit damp out here, no issues with slipping and sliding. The traction on the outsole provided a lovely, secure feeling, gave me confidence in my footing. The shoes are nice and light, it didn't feel tiresome or cumbersome picking them up and putting them back down again with each step. They performed well running at that sort of easier pace. Now let's cover off a couple of the cons. So that sort of restrictive protruding archway, which is surprising given the width of the shoe, but there's just something there that doesn't quite fit in with the underside of my foot. It's only really noticeable when I walk, but it is a little bit frustrating. I suppose the only other thing really is that there's not a massive amount to say about it. They just feel as though they're a really steady workhorse just for clocking up lots and lots of miles. There's nothing massively exciting to write home about. It's just straight down the middle, nice and steady, keep it simple, clock up some miles. And that's where they're going to fit into my rotation. It's just going to be another easy day shoe for bagging those nice slower miles, building up that aerobic fitness base, and just banking nice, steady, comfortable mile after mile. And that's probably as much as I can say for now. I will pick up with another review after I've covered off some more miles in the shoe. And in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, all of that sort of great stuff. Share this video with all of your friends, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Yoo!